Hi guys, I'm Ari. We're gonna start with a beautiful sculpted brow for Alicia today, and I'll walk you through the steps. It's really quick and easy.
Great.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. As you guys can see, I already did one eyebrow for her, so you can see where I'm going for this look. She has a great brow shape, as you can see, but it just, with a little extra product, it can be very defined and it can act as a frame for her beautiful face. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started.
Wonderful.
Okay, so before I start talking about products that I'm gonna use, I just wanna talk about brow shape. A lot of people don't know where the arch is supposed to go or how they should pluck their brows, so a lot of times they just don't do anything. So I'm gonna share with you guys the golden rule for eyebrows. This is a really easy tip, that way that you guys can follow and pluck at home and still get that beautiful arched brow. Because a lot of times we see these celebrities like Megan Fox or Jennifer Connelly, they have these beautiful brows, but we don't know how to get it. So what you wanna do is take any sort of brush or pencil, something like that, and you wanna put it at the end of her nose here and at the end of her eyeball here. And you wanna hold it straight up and down, and that is where your eyebrow should start. Then you wanna just rotate it to the end of the iris and the end of the nose, and that is where your eyebrow should start arching. Then from the end of the nose to the end of the eye, that is where your eyebrow should end. So this is a really great guide for you to be able to give your eyebrows some shape without having to go to a salon and get them professionally shaped. Do you think that's something that you can follow?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
good.
Sounds very easy.
So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna brush her hairs up a little bit to prep for the makeup, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Now you suggest brushing up rather than going along with the shape of the brow?
I would definitely brush up because it gives the hairs a more natural look.
Okay.
Whereas if you start to brush them to the side, they can get a little uneven or a little darker in certain spots.
Okay.
Okay? So with the products we're gonna use, you can use all different kinds of products. There's so many out there these days and it gets really, really confusing. There's powders, gels, pencils, waxes. All you need for this look is gonna be a pencil and a brow powder.
Okay, great.
So you can always use a brow powder, that's great, but honestly, it's the same thing as an eyeshadow. So you can use any eyeshadow that you have at home, or you can go out and just buy a natural color at the store, Walgreens, anywhere.
Okay.
Okay, so the color is also very important too for the eyebrows. I think a lot of people make a big mistake when choosing the eyebrow color. They think that it should match the hair exactly, but that's not the case. It should be 2 or 3 shades lighter than your hair. You want it to be just subtle so it doesn't overpower your face or overpower the eyeshadow that you put on.
Okay.
So the color that I'm gonna use for her is going to be a soft taupe brown, and it's an eyeshadow. And you can put this on with a angled brush, and I prefer to use a natural hair brush. And this is a great one. It has a little eyebrow spoolie on the end, so I can just go ahead and brush up and put on the powder in the same, without putting down the brush. So, and as you can see here, I already did her other brow, so you can see what kind of look I'm going for. It's just a beautifully sculpted, very clean brow. Okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna go ahead and take the brow powder first, and we're gonna dip a little bit in our eyeshadow, which is this natural taupe brown. And you wanna make sure you tap off some of the powder so it doesn't fall down onto your eyes.
Okay.
Okay? So go ahead and face. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is you just want to go ahead and define the edge first, the bottom edge, to get your shape.
Okay, and you said to use a natural hairbrush rather than synthetic, correct?
I would definitely recommend a natural hairbrush. The reason being is that natural hair captures the powder product better, and it lets you have more control of what you're doing.
Okay.
Whereas a synthetic brush, it's not gonna hold the product because it's very slippery.
Okay.
So with a natural hairbrush, it's gonna be a lot better and a lot more control.
Okay.
So what we did is we're just drawing this line here as a guide. So I'm just following her natural line, I'm just making it a little bit smoother. And then you just take the same powder and then you just brush up, and it distributes the powder evenly while filling in the brow. You don't wanna keep dipping the brush into the powder because you don't wanna overdo it, because a little bit goes a long way. Okay, now I'm just gonna take the brush on the other end and I'm just gonna brush the hairs up into the powder, and that's gonna help distribute the product again and make it so it's a little bit more natural and a little more blended with the skin. Okay, so I'm just gonna add a little more here.
And you're still using the same shade that you started off with. You're using one shade throughout the whole look, correct?
Yes, just one shade. Yeah, and it's a natural taupe color. Taupe actually is a very universal color for most people, actually.
Okay, that's definitely good to know. Good point. Thank you.
Okay, so now I just filled in the brow with powder. It looks beautiful the way it is, but what I like to do is to go in with a brow pencil and to just define the edges a little more to make it a little bit more crisp. What this does is it just cleans it up, and it doesn't, the edges of powder, it just looks very soft. So this would be good just for, you know, an everyday, but let me show you what it looks like with a pencil. So the pencil I'm gonna use is a mechanical pencil. It's very thin, so that way you can go in and brush very small strokes onto the eyebrow. So the pencil gives it more of a dimension while the powder fills in the eyebrow.
Now when choosing a pencil in order to do this, would you prefer to look for something that has a thinner applicator?
I would recommend it. A pencil that you sharpen is great, but you just always have to make sure it has that fine point so that you don't get a super thick line.
Okay.
And the same thing with a thin pencil or with any pencil, you want to make sure you use a very light hand.
Okay.
So, because the harder you hold it, the darker the color goes on.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
So what we're gonna do with the thin pencil is I'm gonna do just like I did with the powder, but we're just gonna go along the same edge line, and I'm basically going to define the outer edges. I'm not gonna fill in just like I did the powder. I just wanna go in and define. Okay? And then we just draw the line. And you can do small, short strokes. You don't have to try to make it in one perfect line, because it's just easier that way.
Would you suggest doing the smaller strokes? That way you avoid making any mistakes?
Exactly. Even with any way you use a brush, you always wanna do small, short strokes and then just go along.
Okay.
Okay, and then we're gonna go across the top as well. And I really like to define the point of the eyebrow where it arches right here, because it really gives that eye a nice lift.
And then you just follow through the rest of the shape of the brow.
Exactly. Yep, and I really like to make sure when we define that point, the tail end of the eyebrow, because it really finishes the eye and it makes sure that you have a great frame for what eyeshadow you're gonna use. Okay. All right, perfect. So you have a very clean, perfect eyebrow, and you can just go on and throw on your beautiful holiday look for the season, and you're good to go to any party.
Great.
Now, I just wanna add one more tip for you. If you wanna do that extra pizzazz and just make that really crisp, clean brow, like, you know, Kim Kardashian or Jessica Biel, I have a little extra tip that you can do. You can add a highlighter to your eyebrow.
Okay.
So what that does is basically you can use a concealer or you can use a brow highlighter, but any concealer is great. And it's gonna be about 2 or 3 shades lighter than your skin, and you just go around the eyebrow and then underneath.
Now with a highlighter, how are you going to blend that out?
What I'm gonna do, this is in a pencil form. If you were to use a concealer, you can just use a brush and brush it on.
Okay.
I'm just gonna draw it on, and then I'm gonna blend it out with a synthetic brush.
Okay, and for this look, you can use a synthetic brush over a natural hair brush.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
So you just wanna follow the natural brow, and you just wanna basically outline it. It looks a little bit silly now, but once I blend it in, you'll see what I mean. The reason we are doing this, because it really just, it actually creates extra dimension. It's all about highlighting and contouring the brow. And once I blend this in, it's gonna make the line of her brows even more smooth and even more even. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead, as you can see, I just went ahead and outlined her brow. And now we're gonna go ahead and just blend it in with a synthetic brush. And it just gets blended in right into her foundation. So you're gonna see a slight difference in the lightness here, but it's really just gonna make her eyebrows pop.
And this focus is simply on the eyebrow and the skin around the eyebrow, not on the foundation itself.
Right, so we applied a foundation before to her skin, so I would do this last so that it doesn't get all covered up in the process. Okay, so that's perfect. So as you can see, her brow is now a little extra highlighted, and it gives that extra oomph to her makeup, and all you have to do is throw on your smoky eye, put on your holiday dress, and you can go.
Okay, wonderful.
What do you think of this?
I think it's great, very easy, simple. You can do this as well at home. Thank you so much. This has been Alicia with Femme Rouge Magazine, along with Ari Vincent with Ari Vincent Makeup. Thank you for watching.